Hello and welcome to a special Christmas episode of Kvikmyndapod, an Icelandic cinema podcast. I'm Rob Watts, and as ever, I'm joined by my good friend Ellie Cawthorne.
Hello! Happy Christmas!
Gleðileg jól, Ellie.
Indeed, indeed.
We thought we'd just reconvene, didn't we, for a little Christmas present. I may have promised something at the end of the last episode of the last series, and we can't deliver because we were
The chimney's blocked.
Oh, very good. I didn't
Hey,
even
here
realise
all
what we
week.
were doing. Beautiful Beings was due to be released this week, December the 19th. We were going to watch it and talk about it and put it out as a great pre-Christmas episode. But you know what? They delayed the release. Of course they did. So it's now not being released until the 30th of January. You didn't get a chance to watch the film because they got rid of our link before we had a chance. So I'm not going to promise anything, but hopefully in the new year we'll be able to cover it, and put it out in time for the 30th of January.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
And so today instead, what have we got?
Well, we got a little, very kind of slapdash put together.
Don't call us slapdash.
Okay,
Give away our
slapdash.
secrets.
Wrong choice of word. Something curated at the last second. A little Christmas episode where we're just going to have a little chat about Christmas films, Christmas in Iceland, Christmas in Icelandic films. Let's just start with you then. What's for Christmas? Do you have sort of favourite films? Favourite traditions? What's
obviously.
What? Obviously.
Well, there's obviously one definitive best Christmas film. If we're moving beyond Iceland,
Please.
Obviously, it's Muppets Christmas Carol.
It is the one, isn't it?
It is the one and only.
We were just talking about it off mic. It's just brilliant.
And also just expertly adapted from the fact that they've managed to actually wholesale sneak in like large chunks of a 19th century book into a Muppets kids film without anyone seemingly noticing.
No, you wouldn't know. It's all so Victorian looking and it's so well put together that when Gonzo speaks Dickens's words, it's like, well, yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah, totally. And it isn't hard to understand. It's not like Dickens wrote in really impenetrable prose, was it?
I think it's just that perfect Christmas combo of silly, joyful, sad, heartfelt, and at the end very joyous, which is all I want from a Christmas film.
It is. And it's a bit creepy, mostly funny creepy, but also, heartwarming, like the definitive Tiny Tim. The definitive...
Yeah, of course.
Is it the definitive Scrooge? I don't know. But it's certainly the definitive version overall, isn't it?
Well, what's your favourite Christmas film?
Well, you kind of got it there. The Muppets Christmas Carol, for sure. We had that on VHS growing up. I mean, I must have seen that film every Christmas ever. But the other one is Home Alone, of course.
Oh, of course.
It is one of my favourite films. It is set at Christmas, and
Kevin!
it is amazing. You just can't beat it.
There's just not been a good Christmas film in recent times, has there? Since the 90s.
Do you think Elf was like 2002, 2003?
Yeah, okay. Elf is probably in the canon, isn't it? It's not
I'd say
my own personal fave.
I do love Elf.
I watched last week Krampus, which is
the Christmas horror.
Yeah, which is entertaining in parts, but it's it's not a classic.
It's not a classic. It's kind of scary. It's kind of funny. It's just not. It doesn't deliver fully in any area.
You don't care enough about the people, really, I think. But I'm quite intrigued to see the David Harbour as Santa coming up in Violent Night.
Yes.
Have you seen that?
I've not seen that yet. I've heard decent things. It's a good kind of more action than horror, I think. It's basically just like the Terminator is Santa or something. But
any excuse for Santa just like beating up bad guys, I'm there. I'm in. I imagine it's like chock-a-block with dodgy festive puns as well, which is
hope so.
What we're after.
Someone's got to bring that back. After I'm sure Schwarzenegger was famous for his puns. Jingle All the Way, a semi-classic, the most corporate capitalist Christmas movie ever. But there's a few puns in that. But yeah, if someone can bring a Christmas pun back, David Harbour, I'm sure, can do it.
Is the one.
Yeah.
I mean, can I throw in one which in my mind is a Christmas film, because we always watch it at Christmas, and
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
got the Christmas film spirit, even if it isn't a Christmas film.
Right.
Paddington 2
Oh.
specifically.
Oh yes, of course. These are the most kind of family heartwarming,
Yeah.
beautiful little films, aren't they? Yeah. I mean, hopefully I'll get a chance to watch those over this festive period. And if people haven't seen them, be prepared.
And what are you doing?
Yeah, I would be surprised if people haven't, but they are just delightful. Yeah, I mean, I've been trying to watch some more recent Christmas films. I watched one with Asa Butterfield from Sex Education the other day.
Oh, is this My Christmas or Yours?
Your Christmas or Mine?
Oh,
Yeah.
sorry. Oh,
Get it
much
right.
of a muchness. Was it any good? Was it a Christmas rom-com?
It's a Christmas rom-com, but it's a rom-com where the main characters don't see each other for like 90% of the film. It's quite nice. It feels quite festive. Basically, a couple who've been dating for a couple of months, they're uni students. They decide they're going home to see their families at Christmas, and they both decide at the same time that they're going to go and spend it with each other's families and be with their loved one, their new loved one, not their family. But they both do it at the same time, get on each other's trains, and then end up at each other's families' houses for Christmas. Much
a trading
hilarity.
places scenario.
Exactly. Hilarity and fish out of water and stuff ensues. And it's quite fun.
For a similar vein,
Mm-hmm.
did you see a couple of years ago the absolute... I mean, I hated it and loved it in equal measure. Last Christmas.
That's the
The
Emilia Clarke one.
incredibly literal translation of the George Michael song Last Christmas.
You know what? Genuinely, I was like, oh, it's named after a Wham song.
Mm.
Didn't pick up on that specific
No.
thing. Until the end, I was like, oh, that makes a lot of sense. Like, it is a twist that you should see coming a million
no.
miles away.
Yeah, same.
I did not.
I did not either.
I actually hate the fact that that's what the film is based on. I hadn't even really thought about that.
Yeah. I
You
just
might
have a
just
really
spoilt it for a lot of
strong...
people.
Oh, yeah, spoiler alert, sorry. I have such a strong memory of seeing that in the cinema with my friend. And when the twist was revealed, my friend just going, no, no, and being like genuinely angry and being like, this is ridiculous.
Yeah, they got a point. You know, it's quite Christmassy. It has the right sentiment.
Yeah.
And London at Christmas is Christmas in London on screen is pretty. No? You did a good thing going to the cinema to watch a Christmas film.
I know. Well, this was pre-COVID, wasn't it?
Yeah, but I mean, I can't think of any Christmas films I would go to the cinema to see nowadays. I wouldn't risk it. They're all like straight to streaming, aren't they?
Yeah, yeah.
As was that one I was just talking about. Speaking of other streaming ones, last year I watched The Princess Switch 3.
Oh, God. I mean, you've only got yourself to blame if you watch that.
Yeah, I've watched all three of them. And you know what? They are terrible. This is the one, the Netflix one's with Vanessa Hudgens, where she plays herself. Well, she doesn't play herself. She plays, I think they're twin, long lost cousins, I think. But look, I mean, they're both played by Vanessa Hudgens. So
like
they
a
look the same.
Parent Trap scenario.
Pretty much. And I've forgotten all the story, but the first one, there's 2 of them. Second one, there's 3 of them. I think there may be 4 in the third one.
What?
I can't remember. There's definitely 3 Vanessa Hudgens in one of the films.
Is there some kind of like dodgy IVF scenario going on in one town around there? If there's like 4 clones of Vanessa Hudgens, or like
who knows?
living different lives.
It's set in a fictional country, so who knows what's going on over there? Monrovia?
Just sounds like it's a knockoff of the Princess Diaries.
Oh, it may be. I don't know. It's bad, but I kind of like just seeing Christmas on the TV while you're wrapping presents or whatever. Yeah. But this Christmas, I also watched another horror, Silent Night, Bloody Night, I think it's called. It was rubbish. I'm not even going to go into it. You won't see it unless you have Shudder, the horror streaming service. I would avoid. It's just a bit boring. The guy who made it made a really interesting film called Bliss a few years ago, a vampire film, which I'd recommend, but perhaps not this one. I'm not even sure I got the title right.
Hilarious.
Yeah. So yeah, any traditions then? Anything that you and your family do every year?
No, the main tradition is just sitting around chilling.
It's a good tradition. That's what Christmas is about,
Yeah.
though. Like just getting home and monging out for a week. Nice food,
Mm.
a couple of presents, hopefully lots of presents. I love presents. And just chilling out. I mean, we don't really have any major traditions. We used to go see my nan on Boxing Day, which was lovely, except we'd have to travel to London from the Midlands on Boxing Day morning. It's like, just, you don't want to do that as a kid. Wake up on Boxing Day. It's like, I just want to play with my gifts and watch films. So, yeah, that was one that we didn't love growing up.
Yeah, watching films is on the list. Decision to Leave, not very Christmassy, but it's on my Christmas
that's just dropped on
watch list.
Mubi.
Yes,
Isn't it?
exactly.
Yeah. Speaking of Mubi, good segue. Remember, we still have an offer for all our listeners where you can get 30 days free trial on Mubi. If you go to mubi.com/Kvikmynderpod, that's KVIKMYNDAPOD. And yeah, Mubi just dropped Decision to Leave, which is the new Park Chan-wook, which is exciting. Rams is still on there. And Rams is a film we're going to kind of discuss in a bit more detail today. Should we just jump into that now?
Well, yeah, we're just using it as a little window into Icelandic Christmas, right?
Yeah, that's a nice way to put it. I was like thinking about how we've mentioned Christmas pops up in so many of these films. Actually, I'm not sure it does, having gone back through.
It's just everything feels Christmassy in Iceland.
And there's a lot of choral music, of course, but it's not always set at Christmas. But the first film we ever covered, Rams, has such a great little scene in it that feels like a good way to kind of jump into talking about Icelandic Christmas traditions and stuff. So I thought, well, yeah, we'll look at that and go from there. So Rams, can you remember what Rams is about? It was 2 years ago nearly that we discussed this for the first time.
Yes.
Go on, give us the tiniest synopsis.
It's just about two sheep farming brothers who have a rivalry, but secretly underneath do love each other. As there's a sheep disease going round that they've got to battle or avoid. Is that good enough?
That sounds good to me, yeah. And so the brothers are older guys named Gummi and Kiddy. And then there's a scene that starts on Christmas Eve. So after Gummi detects Scrapey and calls in kind of the government and the vets and all of that, Kiddy has learned that he needs to destroy his entire flock of sheep, which is pretty sad. Not a nice thing to have to do ever, let alone around Christmas. But he does that, he goes out and gets very, very drunk. And then he basically ends up on Gummi's doorstep on Christmas Eve as he's preparing his solo Christmas dinner, on his own. But he's all dressed up in his finery and he's ready. Kiddy comes along, gets dropped off and ends up in a bath and spends the rest of the evening there, basically, doesn't he?
I love the fact that Gummi has made like an entire haunch of lamb for himself.
It's so good, isn't it? He's a sheep farmer, but he gets that lamb delivered, and that lamb comes in that funny little scene where he's like gets given it, and the guy's like, "You got any coffee?" It's like, no, and that's it. It's like, oh, very, very sort of Christmassy of you, really extending the goodwill to all men there.
It has got a Christmassy little feel though, hasn't it? This bit with it's all candlelit, and he's got the radio on playing In Dulce Jubilo, but I think Icelandic version, and a couple of little Santa decorations. It's got a cozy feel. It's
like a really, really good encapsulation of a traditional Icelandic Christmas. I watched the scene and then just sort of did a bit of research into what's that in there. And like you say, he's cooking lamb, which in Iceland is apparently the most traditional meat to eat at Christmas.
More so than turkey.
Yeah, well, I mean, lamb is literally synonymous with Iceland. But I read that it gets hung dried and kind of smoked with dung.
Okay, I'm intrigued. I could go for that.
Weird. But I think it was because, especially in winter, hay and things to burn and trees don't exist in Iceland, are few and far between. So smoking something with dung was quite an easy and free way to do it, I guess.
And on the tree point, I found it interesting that there are no, a Christmas tree looks really kind of Icelandic or Scandinavian,
Norwegian?
but yeah, it's not. There are no native evergreen trees in Iceland, so they initially had to have rowan as Christmas.
Oh,
trees.
really, rowan? Yeah. That's really interesting because the Vikings came and basically chopped down every tree in the country and made it all kind of grassland and farmland, didn't they? But was rowan a native tree to Iceland? That's interesting.
Yeah, well, I read that rowan, there is a form of rowan that's native to Iceland, so that would be more of you'd use that basically and originally as a Christmas tree rather than a fir or whatever.
That makes a lot of sense. But he doesn't even have that up in his house, does he? He has a little wire Christmas tree with 13 candles. 13 candles, 13 Yule lads.
I knew you were going to bring in the Yule lads.
It's the 13 days of Christmas that they have in Iceland. And you knew about the Yule lads already, obviously, as did I. It's the big tradition.
I think so. Obviously, in my historical day job, if you're looking for like history, folklore about Christmas, folklore or traditions about Christmas that are interesting and weird, the Yule lads are always popping up because
really?
They're just like a great little story. And they kind of take the story a bit older than Victorian, which is often seen as, in Britain, the start.
We were talking
Christmas
about
stuff.
Dickens, weren't we? And he's the guy who's like credited with what we look at as Christmas.
Yeah, exactly. And Prince Albert brought the Christmas tree to Britain is the classic idea. It's not entirely true, but fine. But the Yule lads are just iconic.
Well, tell me about the Yule lads then.
Well, they're basically, they're not really lads. They're kind of like old creepy troll men.
Don't call them creepy troll men.
They are, right, they are creepy.
They're going to come and put coal in your shoe.
So it's 13 brothers. I think their mum and dad are also like horrible ogre trolls.
Okay.
Who eat children. They have the Christmas cat as well, like as their pet.
Yeah, I put a picture of the Christmas cat on our Instagram last Christmas because they have a big sculpture of it in Reykjavik.
So the Christmas cat will eat you if you don't have any new clothes at Christmas.
Yeah,
Do you think that was invented by like the cloth merchants of Iceland or something
100%.
back in the day?
Yeah, it's like there's got to be a reason commercially.
Yeah,
for these
keep
things
business
to happen.
going there.
Yeah.
But the 13 Yule lads all come on a different day, right? Visit your house.
Yeah, from the 12th of December until Christmas Eve.
And get up to naughty business. All seems to be just varieties of stealing bits of food from your house. Or just being
hungry.
weird and creepy.
They like to lick things, don't they?
Oh, yeah, which is so gross. Like, it's almost worse than somebody coming in and stealing your food. Somebody coming in, licking all your food and then leaving is definitely worse.
That is pretty grim, isn't it? Oh, what do they lick? The bowls, spoons, and plates.
Yeah, so there's pot licker, spoon licker, who in this picture has got a very long tongue, which I'm not into.
Should we try and say these in Icelandic?
Okay, what if I'll say their English names and you say their Icelandic names.
Okay, let's start because we're recording today on the 17th. Let's start with the first licker, which is the 15th.
Okay, so first we got spoon licker.
Right, this is the hardest one to say. I think. I'm not even sure I can get this. Föruslicker.
Okay, sounds convincing. Then pot licker, who steals leftovers from your pot.
Potaskefil.
Then bowl licker. I don't know how bowl licker is very different to pot licker, but fine.
He is Askasleikir.
Very good.
And yeah, well, Askasleikir, he licks bowls because that's what traditionally Icelanders ate their food from, bowls with lids. But apparently, obviously, people eat off plates these days. So
what's he do? What's he do?
He's just gone with the times.
Is that to evolve?
Yeah, he hasn't called himself plate licker, but he's essentially, he'll lick anything with food on it that's not a pot. Maybe something you transfer cooked food onto, whereas pot licker is eating the food from the pan.
Actually, I think pot licker's less gross somehow.
Why? Because the food can still cook and burn
yeah,
off
exactly,
his germs.
And he's kind of like he's just getting it straight from the source. Then there's like the very unthreatening door slammer.
Yeah, but if you're asleep and someone slams the door, it's horrible.
What's in it for him?
Well, he just is mischievous, isn't he?
He likes to slam doors, especially during the night.
Hurthaskellir.
He needs to get some hobbies.
I think this whole idea of like creepy people coming into your home and just causing mayhem. You know, one of my favorite horror films? That's a slip of the tongue. Christmas films is Home Alone. That's all about mayhem at Christmas, and these guys are basically doing that too.
Well, the mayhem at Christmas is an incredibly old idea. So a lot of in England at least, a lot of the kind of pagan traditions that were then brought forward and became Christmas are based around the world turned upside down. So you have stuff like boy bishops. So like a young little boy would be like, "You're in charge now. You tell us what to do," or like lords of misrule. And the whole idea about that is that the people who have no power are then in charge for a session, so like chaos can reign, and the people who are in charge have to kind of do what they're told. That's like a long tradition.
That's really interesting. I did not know that. But that's also interesting because this idea of an Icelandic Christmas is like, especially in this day and age, is because of the winter solstice and all that pagan stuff, and again because we've all lived through the Victorian era and we've all lived through Americanization of Christmas and stuff. The Icelandic Christmas is essentially like a hodgepodge of everything. Even the Yule lads are less terrifying these days, I think.
Yeah, and the Yule lads are quite Krampusy. Do you know what I mean? Like the kind of trolley goblin vibes. If you're naughty, well, their mum will come and eat you, right? If you're naughty.
Essentially, I think, yeah.
I feel like loads of cultures come up with an idea of just telling children to be good for the next year.
Yeah, I mean, it probably works.
Whether it's, Santa won't bring you presents, or Krampus will come kill you, or Grulla will come and eat you, or abduct you, apparently.
Don't want to be abducted either. But it's interesting you talk about Krampus and stuff, because one of my favourite Christmas films, and I might have mentioned this on the podcast before, is Rare Exports, which is a Finnish Christmas film. But they've basically made up their own mythology, but it's based around Krampus and Father Christmas and stuff, and like the tradition that originally Father Christmas was a horrible old man who basically killed and abducted children. But I also remember seeing Rare Exports in Bio Paradis in Reykjavik one Christmas, and it was like the perfect thing to watch, But it's a proper little like horror action film. It's like 80 minutes long, and I think it's on Amazon Prime, or it was. It's definitely worth watching, especially because it's a Scandi film, and it's just another nice kind of twist on that sort of mythology of Christmas.
It's the most magical time of the year, when traditions are honored and the youngest among us still believe in the spirit of the season.
We found something else than just plain rocks and dirt.
This mountain is like a giant icebox.
For storing what?
Drill deeper.
Prepare the dynamite. You have a grave to rob.
Minkälaiset sudet tekee? Hyvää joulua.
Isä! Vetti on viety!
We have Santa Claus. Selitä sille, että meillä on täällä pukki myytävänä.
He sees you when you're sleeping. He knows when you're awake. He knows if you've been bad or good. And he doesn't give up. Rare Exports, A Christmas Tale.
Another thing I read about Christmas in Iceland, which I really enjoyed, was that celebrations are meant to, in theory, start at 6 p.m. on Christmas Eve.
Yes, it's all about Christmas Eve, isn't it?
Yeah, which again is much more like Germany.
Yeah,
for example,
Poland do the same thing.
But that there used to be no TV between 5 p.m. and 10 p.m. on Christmas Eve. Just like all the channels were turned off, which
I quite like that.
was not the case anymore. So anybody wanting to watch a film at those times can do.
Okay.
Keeping it film related.
Very good. And hopefully they'll be showing things like Echo, because that's the Christmas film. That's on my Christmas watch list, but it isn't available to watch, so I probably won't see it this year. But there can't have been much telly to watch even, from as soon as when Iceland got telly, I don't know when that was, 70s, I imagine. Like, there can't have been much to watch anyway, let alone Christmas Eve.
Yeah.
But yeah, I like the idea of like everything shuts down for Christmas Eve and you're there, you spend it with your family. And yeah, in Rams, Gummy is having his Christmas dinner on Christmas Eve. He's got the radio on, like you say, listening to Christmas hymns. And yeah, it's just the perfect encapsulation. He doesn't have any Yule lads running around.
Although, do you know what? Kiddie has a strong Yule lad vibe.
He really does. Wait till you watch Rare Exports, because seeing Kiddie getting out of that bath naked, walking into the living room, there's some familiar sights in Rare Exports, I'll tell you that much. Not that we all want to see old naked fat men with beards running around, but there's a big scene of that. But yeah, so the Yule lads basically are from the 12th to the 24th, so Christmas Eve. Kertasnikir comes up. Candle beggar.
Candle beggar.
And he's one of the lads that's not occupied with food. He steals candles from children on Christmas Eve.
You say he's not obsessed with food, but he's stealing tallow candles, which are made from fat and therefore edible. You might not want to eat them, but Candle Stealer is loving them.
He's eating them, is he?
Yeah, he's eating them.
Oh, that's weird. I mean, he's a Yule lad, I suppose. I saw some candles being made just like that in Iceland when I was there at Aurbæjar Open Air Museum, because they do like a Christmas celebration and there's people demonstrating how they make the candles, and it absolutely stinks. There were people doing carols around the tree. It's a lovely place to be at Christmas, but not on your own. I feel a bit bad for Gummy. Like, he's got his brother. Christmas is a time of family. It's quite nice that his brother is there at Christmas, don't you think?
Yeah, but this is the real essence of this film, isn't it? In this Christmas scene, in that he turns up in a chaotic state. He's a bit of a liability, but ultimately his brother tucks him in under a blanket, tucks his little toes in so that they don't get cold. And that is the Christmas spirit.
Truly, truly. I love this scene for so many reasons, though. Like, he's there, he's set it all up, but then he goes down into the basement to make sure that his chief ram impregnates all the sheep that he's hiding from the government. And we get that little scene with the vet who brings Gummy back. And it's like a precursor to the really, really tense scene that happens later on, where he hears a noise, a shuffling from the basement, and he blames his cat, not the Christmas cat. I don't think he has any cats, but it's all very kind of clever and leading up to that. But his meal just keeps getting interrupted. I mean, I guess he chooses to do that. But I want to focus on some of the things I saw while he was preparing his dinner, because I don't know why, I just paused and it's like,
going niche.
Let me look at because he's cooking in his kitchen, and I was just like, right, let me see what I can learn about Icelandic Christmas, because I didn't know any of this stuff I'm about to say till I watched it. I was like, right. So like we said, he's cooking lamb. We talked about the dung. He's cooking potatoes, so the traditional Icelandic Christmas dinner is lamb, potatoes, peas, cabbage, and some sort of white sauce that's a bit like bechamel, apparently. Can't quite see if he's got that bit. But what he does have is he's got a can of peas on his counter. You're not a peas fan?
No, not in a roast dinner.
What?
Yeah, not for me.
My girlfriend feels the same, but I love peas.
It's wrong.
I could eat a whole plate of peas and gravy at the end of a meal. But yeah, he's got his can of Ora peas. Now, who'd have thought it, but this little can of peas, so you can just about make out, it's like a yellow can, and they are called Greiner Baunir. And yeah, weirdly, I guess, I don't know whether you can grow peas in Iceland. Probably can now. But like a can of peas is like a huge staple at an Icelandic Christmas dinner. Apparently, especially these ones, Aura. So I found that out. But then, going down the rabbit hole even deeper, I found out that a brewery in Iceland made a Christmas beer. Because you might have noticed he's also drinking beer.
Yeah.
He's drinking the Viking Yola beer. I think that's what it's called. I was like, looking to figure out what he was drinking was the Viking Christmas beer. But this company made a beer flavoured around this can of green peas and the red cabbage, because red cabbage is an important staple.
It sounds like a horrible beer.
I mean, I don't know how does it taste like cabbage and peas? I don't know. Maybe it doesn't. Maybe it just uses the ingredients to brew into there somehow. I don't know.
Bizarre.
But I wouldn't mind
Give
trying
it a go.
Yeah. I just thought it was a really fun thing to do for Christmas, mixing all these things together, especially because, I don't know, maybe it's not the same anymore, but if that was like, I can imagine it being like the 80s and every family had their can of green peas, their jar of red cabbage, and their leg of lamb, and that was the scene. And then it's all here in one beer. Don't know. But speaking of drinks, I also read, I really did go down a rabbit hole, but there are two drinks in Iceland that are like really, really popular. There's Appelsin, which is the orange flavoured fizzy drink, which is delicious. It's like the biggest soft drink over there. But there's also this malt drink. They're both made by the same company. I think I talked about the malt drink when we talked about Noe Albanoe, because he drinks a lot of it. Anyway, they're both popular drinks, but for Christmas...
You combine them, right?
Yeah.
Well, whoever came up with this idea from the this
Brewery.
drinks company marketing board smashed it.
Absolutely. You know what? We'll sell more of everything if we just make a drink of the two things we sell. So people, will mix the two drinks together, or you can buy it ready-made. Of course you can, because they're made in the same factory. So they call it Jólaöl. Jólaöl? Yeah, Christmas ale.
Nice.
Not that it's an ale at all. It's mildly alcoholic. I've been drinking a Norwegian beer for Christmas this year. So Lervig, they're a Norwegian brewery. They make a thing called Julebok. And I'd tried a pint of it at a brewery in Bristol called Left Handed Giant last year and ordered a case of it this year.
Oh,
it's delicious.
You know how to live.
I really do. Scandi Christmas. What else is going on in his scene?
Can anything else be going on in a 30-second scene? Is it possible?
Is it possible? It certainly is possible. Once he's tucked Kitty in, he opens his one present, doesn't he? It looks like it's a book.
Which I know from some research. Books are a very, very popular present.
They
in Iceland
are.
for Christmas.
Yeah. Like
Which
huge.
it didn't seem incredibly clear why, but I'm sure they're popular presents everywhere. But
yeah, I actually haven't got to the bottom of why.
well,
But,
I saw something that
interested to
said
know.
in the Second World War, when books weren't rationed, when lots of other things were, then they became a popular staple gift. But that seems a bit tenuous to me.
Just a nation of book readers, people who like to read. That's all the evidence I need. I read that like the industry basically is just built around Christmas now, so books will get published in the run up to Christmas. That's when they'll just sell everything. And I'm looking at a shelf just behind you in my flat full of Icelandic books, which I'm sure sold super well when they came out. Ragnar Jónasson, Arnaldur Indriðason, Yrsa Sigurðardóttir. But like, I mean, you go into a bookshop in Reykjavik, of which there are millions. Like there's more bookshops than there are like bars and stuff. And it's great. Have a nice little coffee or a Christmas beer and sit down with a book. It's lush. Yeah. I don't know where he got that Christmas present from though.
Maybe he bought it himself.
I think he bought it for himself and wrapped it up.
Maybe,
It's cute.
Cute or sad?
Well, I don't want to see it as sad, but it is. Their whole relationship is sad. It would be nice to think that the brothers bought each other presents, but that didn't happen, did it? Yeah, so, well, that's what I learned from the scene in Rams.
You learnt too much, arguably, from that scene.
I learned enough to go away and make my own Icelandic Christmas roast now.
Yeah, good point. Good idea. Last year I made a historical Christmas feast.
Did you?
For friends. Yeah, made from historical recipes. So you could do the same with Icelandic.
That's very true. What you've just reminded me of a thing that happened in history class in year 8. Mr. Roberts made everyone cook something from history and bring it in.
Love it.
But like most people did basic things, someone cooked something. It was basically just a brown gloop and it stank and everyone hated it. Mr. Roberts, he had really bad body odour as well. And this was quite well known and the room was quite stinky anyway. The two smells combined, everyone was just like gagging. It was
Oh, God.
horrible.
Oh, what a horrible
So
memory
bad.
you've just shared.
I know. Sorry, everybody. But it bears repeating because it was just disgusting. It won't be that bad if I cooked a roast lamb.
No.
I promise.
With your peas and your red cabbage.
Yeah, I mean, red cabbage is funny because I never ate that with a roast till I came to Bristol.
Really?
Yeah, my parents won't touch it.
Oh.
Yeah?
Love red cabbage at Christmas.
Oh, you have that up north?
Yeah.
Yeah. All this talk of Christmas and Iceland just reminded me of a couple of things. So obviously I've been over there twice at Christmas. And one time, I've got a little program here. I went to 2 Christmas concerts in a day. One was at Harper, the concert hall. And it was called, I'm going to get this wrong as well probably, Jólatónleikar Sinfoniunana. Is that right? There's too many N's in this word. Sinfoniuna. Anyway, it's basically an orchestra, but with doing Christmas songs, but with lots and lots of local kids from schools and different dance groups and choirs doing, Christmas things. And it was so sweet and really, really festive. And it was just a beautiful thing to do at Christmas. But I was looking at this program today and you know what? I did not realise this because we hadn't been doing the podcast at the time. But it was basically introduced by a lady dressed as a clown, Barbara the Clown.
Classic.
You'll never guess who it was.
Oh my God, who?
Haldora!
I knew you were going to say Haldora.
I couldn't believe it. I was like, oh shit, I've actually seen her
That's
in real
so
life on a
funny.
stage with a big red nose.
That's hilarious.
Yeah, I thought it was really cool. And then the other concert I went to was a thing that Prince Polo used to do, annual Christmas concert, which was delightful. I didn't understand a word of anything that was going on, but he got lots and lots of friends onto the stage, sang with loads of different people, and it was just lovely again. It was like, Iceland's just the place to be at Christmas.
Yeah, totally.
Rest in peace, Prince Polo, because he died earlier this year, which is very sad. But I will never forget that Christmas concert. It was so good. Anyway. Let's leave it
Lovely
there.
stuff. Oh, now I'm ready to just sit down with a haunch of lamb and eat a can of peas. I don't know about you.
That sounds dreamy. Gleðileg jól.
Gleðileg jól. And like a bright star shineth, my tree sing gremio.